Switch 2 announcement is coming, it seems.
You know, it makes sense that the plans for the announcement would leak.
Everything else leaked.
Up to this point, every other detail has leaked along the
All
way.
right.
So why not this?
Who is telling people the secrets, guys? If that's okay.
Yes.
We kind of wanted to know, and we kind of already knew anyway, didn't we?
So, big report
Yeah.
this morning in the Nate the Hate podcast that's getting picked up and talked about all sorts of places.
Yeah.
That the reveal is going to be coming this Thursday, January 16th. And the podcast says, I can share with you right now that the Nintendo Switch 2 will be revealed in the coming week. And then he goes on to say it's going to be this Thursday.
I had thought that it was going to be this Thursday.
Are you Nate the Hate?
No.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay.
We were talking about how we just really needed Nintendo to wait until you came back from vacation. You're back. You're here.
I am back.
We were hoping that it wasn't last week. It wasn't last week because of CES. This week we always thought looked pretty good.
Yeah, so again, like in our job at Nintendo, like we would help to analyze the calendar and help people pick, like this is a good date to make an announcement, this is a bad date to make an announcement. And last week always felt bad to us.
Bad dates.
Because CES was happening, all these other big tech announcements were happening, very graphics-oriented hardware announcements where if you made a comparison between a Switch 2 and I don't know, the new NVIDIA graphics card, guess what's going to look better?
Right.
And just a lot of news and a lot of conversation happening around that all week. The following week from this week is a holiday Monday, Martin Luther King, and then the U.S. inauguration is the following day, so there's going to be all sorts of conversation around that. This week, though, is
clear.
This is a pretty good week, with one exception.
Donkey Kong.
The one exception is they're launching a first-party game.
That's fine, though.
On the supposed same day as this. We'll come back to that point and talk more about what might be going on with that. But let's keep talking about what old Nate had to say. And Nate, you know, why do we trust Nate? I think Nate has a pretty good track record. Nate has a pretty even-keeled way of talking about these things.
Yes.
And when we did our podcast last year, I believe, with one Jeff Grubb, we asked him, you know, who are the people who have information that you tend to believe when they share it? And he said, Nate the Hate, I think, was the first one who came out of his mouth.
Yeah.
And since then, a lot of other people have popped up saying, I've actually heard something similar, or I tend to believe this. So I guess, do you believe this?
I believe this.
I believe this too.
Yeah, I again, like when all of these leaks were happening, I feel like we wouldn't talk about it unless we believe them too, or if they seem logical and plausible. And this 100% seems logical and plausible to us. Like again, this is a week that we thought would be a good week to make an announcement. Kind of everything's been pointing to this late, mid-January announcement, reveal timing. So all of this feels very likely to me.
So Nate admits that he has some of the information about the reveal, but he does not have everything.
Right.
And there are some pieces to it that to him don't completely add up yet.
Okay, let's talk about it.
So let's keep talking. So he says that there will be, you know, a short video that will be part of this reveal on the 16th, but he says that the video is going to be very focused on the hardware and that the games side of the Switch 2 is going to have very little presence, if at all, which is definitely a departure from how the original Switch was revealed in 2016 with that short teaser video that was kind of equal parts, hey, here's the system, how it works, but we're also going to give you a taste, some little snippets
of some of the games.
Of these things that eventually became properly announced games. Remember, those were experiences. Those did not get confirmed as actual games until later. But at least we saw them. Like you got a good look at
a game screen.
Mario Odyssey, at Splatoon 2, and all these other games. It sounds like that is not the plan this time.
Yeah.
What do you think of this?
This is interesting because we were talking about as these leaks were just coming so fast and so furiously, we were like, it's okay, Nintendo might be a little worried, but they still have the games up their sleeves. And they still have that as the true element of surprise, which is the launch games that will come along with the system. Now, they might be thinking the same thing and holding these games back as a way to properly announce them somehow, make a bigger splash with them because everything else has been leaked. So that could be one reason why this is so hardware focused. The other thing that I was thinking about when I was thinking about, what this announcement might look like is they do have a lot more work to do this time around to really differentiate Switch 2 with original Switch. If the form factor is really similar and they have, other things on the surface that might look very similar to the original Switch, they may need a hardware video that points the little technical, differences and improvements to really like spell that out for people. So that could be one of the reasons why they're focused on hardware versus games, which it's a little bit of a departure for them.
Now that's a little bit different from some things you've said in the past, where people understand the form factor. You won't need to spend as much time getting people to understand what a handheld console is. So you can jump right into, and here's the games that you're going to be playing on, and aren't they incredible? And the mantra for us that was pounded into our head, day after day
sells hardware.
at Nintendo is that software sells hardware.
Yeah.
So I'm a little concerned at this detail here.
Yeah.
This is a very different approach from when the Switch was announced. And,
Yeah.
we used to announce hardware with like, oh, here's the flyby of the hardware. Oh, look at this button. Look at how you can press the button and zoom in on this. Like everybody was like, yeah, that's outdated. That's lame. But it kind of sounds like this is maybe what
I
this
was just going to say,
is going to be.
This is what this is going to be.
So either
This is what this is going to be.
they're being extremely conservative, or as you were saying, they maybe feel like they do need to be very clear that this is a new system. This is not just an iteration on the original Switch. This is the next generation. So let's really take you through those paces before we start to even talk about the games. That'll happen later.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Something about this doesn't feel right to me. And this really, if this is the case, they really are hurt by all these leaks, because half of this stuff is like, yeah, we knew this. I've seen this. Some guy at CES, like held it in his hand. Like what is left to surprise us?
Yeah.
There could be. There could be
there
some
could be
things,
some
but
things.
the full surprise factor, that cat's out of the bag.
Yeah. Yeah, it is true. It is a little bit of a tricky situation for them dealing with
Right.
what has happened in the months leading up to this reveal. I just get this feeling that it's going to be like a very traditional hardware flyby overview. The thing rotates and it's like zooming in on this detail, blah, 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 controller redesign.
Mouse pointer controls,
the blue, magnets, updated dog, like I kind of see that
I
in
don't
my
know.
head.
I just play out in my head like what the reaction to that would be, and be like,
Yeah.
okay, well you've officially confirmed it. Now I'm going to be tapping my foot for the
Yeah.
next month or so until I actually see a game,
Right.
and it's a little
It's
unsatisfying.
a little bit unsatisfying. The other thing, and I hope this is not what's happening internally, but I can see this becoming a thing that they like talk themselves into.
Yeah.
Because they do that, is this lingering fear that they will have a Wii U situation.
Absolutely.
Where they're like, oh my gosh, such a big success with the original Switch. There is relatively no chance for us to replicate this type of success. Are people, and then they start to spiral, are people going to get confused and say, just like what you said, this is just an iteration
Right.
on the original Switch. This is just another version of a Switch OLED. This is like, there's a number of confusing things that people
Yes.
could come up with who are not closely following everything like we are, or like a very small amount of people. Like the broader audience might not be as tuned into this and might just think, oh, another Switch, different colors? Okay, cool, And not realize this is brand new hardware.
If that's the case, then I also wonder, does it indicate
Fear.
that the games will be graphically better, but like at a glance, will they be
can't
that
tell.
much better? Especially if they're on a small screen.
Handheld screen.
So it's like, yeah, we'll show those and we'll talk about all those enhancements
Absolutely.
and the 4K and the whatever, the
Yeah.
up-resing. We'll do all of that later. So yeah, I mean,
Right.
it's a fair point to make though, because they should be concerned about that, because they got burned so bad in the past,
Yeah.
and there's no way to know. You will never know. You can be surprised at the reaction. We were surprised at the reaction with the Wii. We thought like, oh yeah, like people will figure it out at least.
Yeah.
Like it's confusing, but people will get over the hump. They never did.
No.
And it was just DOA from day one.
Yeah, we really thought people were going to get over it.
Yeah.
We thought that in the months, that we would try to turn the
Yeah. It's
tide.
like we got time. We can get ourselves
do
out
it.
of this hole, but we
and
never
then
did.
we really realized that you couldn't do it. So yeah, there is fear, I think, that's governing some of this stuff.
Yes.
And Nintendo tends to be very conservative when they get backed into a corner where they get scared.
Well, also when they're operating from this position of strength too. It's like,
Oh,
we'll
yeah,
do that. We'll
absolutely.
do that later when we're good and ready.
When we're good and ready.
Right. So again, like that's something we've had our eye on for a while.
For a long time, for almost a
you
year.
know, is Nintendo
Yeah.
getting to a point of being a little too arrogant in
Yes.
their approach versus like you need to be hungry. You need to have the eye of the tiger and really like give the people what they want to see and what they want to know.
Yeah.
Because again, like I'm a little concerned about the reaction if this is all this is.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we'll see. Let's see what happens.
But in terms of the games, Nate does have some information on that. So what he's heard is that in either late February or early March, there would be a Switch 2 software showcase where again, the full lineup gets shown, gets explained. You can take a very close look at all of that. And that would make sense. Remember when the original Switch was announced, October had that short video, but then it was January.
Yes.
It's the 8-year anniversary, yesterday or so of that.
Yes.
Big presentation, big blowout. People got to play stuff.
I feel like,
So they're kind of, it's not the same blueprint, but it's close.
I can see this.
Yeah.
I can see them doing a big event in New York. I can see them doing a big showcase where they finally show off the games, maybe whatever the new surprising, hopefully, features are on a Switch 2 get brought to life. How many ice cubes can you hear now? During that presentation, developers come
Click
out.
the mouse.
Click that mouse. Click the mouse as fast as possible. Get your Diablo loot. Who knows? And then there's probably going to be some hands-on. I can see it. Preview event. Like,
Right.
I can see it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That makes sense to me.
It's just, again, just the decision to really like back off of game content in general for the first review. It doesn't sit right. But again, we haven't seen it. But it doesn't sit right with me.
Yeah.
As of now, as of what we know.
We have to see.
Other things that Nate said, he doesn't know yet if a launch timing or price will be communicated in what we're supposedly getting this week.
Yeah.
I think it's safe to say price will not be.
It would not be. 100% no.
We always, like, price is such a last minute thing.
The last minute thing
because
that you
things can
announce is
change.
price.
Things can change.
Absolutely.
Like, who knows? Your position on some component could get better.
Exactly.
Could get worse.
Could get worse.
So you really do need to wait as long as possible.
Yeah. You introduce the
do
thing
that.
first.
Yes.
And then at the very last minute, you communicate.
You can also
with us.
read the tea leaves of I think I'd be glad to pay X for this based on what I know.
Absolutely.
So you want to give yourself as much wide berth with
Yes,
that
and they've
as you
done
can.
that, and they will do that again.
A date, again, going back to the original Switch, we did get a date right away.
March.
We got the date
Yes.
on then.
March launch
And
time.
what Nate is saying is that he's heard about, he said, fiscal year Q1 with June being most likely. So
That's what I always
the
thought.
end of Q1.
I always thought it was going to be a summer launch.
Yeah,
That's
that-
what I always thought. Even last year when it was internally delayed, I had
Right.
been saying May, June launch.
Right, and that would be about 5 or so months, which is right
sense.
about how long they needed to do the original Switch.
Yes.
I'd seen some people saying like, oh, it's going to be on a really accelerated timeline. It's going to be out
No.
in March. Like that
No,
feels a little.
That feels too early.
That feels pretty fast.
They want to do preview events. That's
There's
why.
a lot of things you would need to do in those 2 months.
Yeah, they're not going to give. It's too you don't need to do that.
Right.
Summer launch feels right to
Right.
me.
One other thing I did want to point out. So even last week, this person who had properly called the date of the PS5 Pro
Oh yes.
and the Alarmo
I
announcements.
saw that. Yeah.
This person had some slightly different information, but this person was saying the 17th of January, and I do want to address that because,
That's a Friday.
well, in what country?
Oh.
What country are we talking about?
Yes.
So if something happens
Global release,
in the
right.
afternoon of the 16th here, that would be Japan's 17th.
Yeah.
So I think if you hear people saying 17th, 16th, like to me, it's like they might be talking about the same thing, but they might have gotten different information
zones, yeah.
about what region or what country
Absolutely.
time zone we're
Yeah.
actually talking about.
In the U.S. Nintendo of America time zone, I believe it would be the 16th.
That would be the 16th,
Yeah.
Japan's 17th.
I agree.
So let's call so Donkey Kong here.
Donkey
Seems
Kong.
to be, on its way to being an acceptable casualty.
The Kong in the room is Donkey Kong. Yeah, I think it's an acceptable casualty. It is something that I think original Switch owners or there is a fan base for this game that is going to buy this game anyways.
Yeah.
The Switch 2 will get announced. It's not coming out right away. You're probably going to buy it anyway. It's backwards compatible. You know what I mean? Like, If you're going to buy this game, you're going to buy it regardless of whether or not this thing gets announced.
And it's not a game that necessarily is going to have a huge day one, but is just going to be on the shelf for a while, and people will pick it up.
When they pick it up.
Now people might say, like, well, you were the ones championing, like, don't cannibalize the sales in the holiday. Like, what's the difference between announcing this thing on the same day as a game comes out? And what I think we would say to that is, we've seen the difference in sales from holiday versus Q1.
Q1, oh my gosh.
And
Q1.
it's a drastic drop off.
Yeah. Having a game scheduled for Q1 it serves only one purpose, which is just to keep yourself like sort of top of mind.
Unless we're
it's
talking,
not really for like making money.
Like there are occasionally like major like AAA games that slip in to Q1. Like this is not that.
Yeah.
A
lot of times those games are delayed games though. From Q4.
Exactly.
So yeah, this is not that. This is 100% like a more evergreen play. Like this is to this game is to feed a certain fan base. This is already a remake of another, of the Wii game.
And
so, yeah.
Again, to the point of, what we would do in helping to pick announcement dates, there's often not a perfect answer.
Right.
It's like, here's like
the best.
Here's the top 3 options. Here's the pros and cons to all of them.
Yeah. You pick the one with the least cons.
Somebody make a decision of what you want to do.
Yeah.
And in this case, they may have looked at a number of dates in January and said, like, it's not 100% ideal, but for what we need to do in this time frame, we'll go with that.
Yeah, you basically write this document called an announcement strategy, and you have all these different dates, and you put, your different strategic reasons for why you pick such date, and you deliver that document to the executive board, and they would just like,
they'll go do what they will with it.
They'll decide and they'll tell you, like,
there will be a puff of smoke and they'll come back.
Out of the 3 options, that date.
We're doing this.
And then we plan around that date. But, it's not a perfect science. Like, sometimes you can get a perfect date. Like, this is a clear window. This is perfect. But most of the time, especially nowadays, with so many announcements, events, just things happening all the time.
Yeah,
in the world.
Last week, Microsoft announced their developer direct.
Right.
So like, there's always something that could pop up last second.
Yeah, good thing their developer direct is.
But as far as again this week and this date, like I feel pretty
good about
pretty solid about that.
Feeling pretty solid. Yeah. They love a Thursday, Nintendo. They love a Thursday. You know why? It's because they have Monday through Wednesday to tie up any loose ends.
Yeah.
You never do it on Monday. Monday's bad because then people are like, trying to get people over the weekend, and then Japan's not up, and Europe is on a holiday, so that's not going to work. Tuesday, a little dicey still because you're pretty close to Monday. Wednesday, Thursday, you're looking a lot better.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there you go.
And this is something that will probably get pre-promoted, so that's something we'll be seeing soon. Who knows? Will we get Mario peeking around the curtain again?
Gosh.
Hopefully, again.
Hopefully not.
They've had time to think of something better than that.
Maybe they'll
I think
think of something better. Yeah, they'll do a little pre-promo, probably 24 hours in advance of this. So look for something maybe on Wednesday at some point.
Yeah.
And then we'll know, and then we'll be there. But I think we are going to obviously keep a close eye out for all the things that are happening, and then be, doing lots of videos for you guys to share our thoughts about how this is all going down. This is like so fun for us because someone had said this in the Discord, and it clicked in my head into reality that this is the first hardware launch from Nintendo that I haven't been inside the company for since the Wii days.
Since the Wii. Literally the Wii.
Yeah. Wii was my last console that I got as a fan.
Yeah.
I stood in line for that Wii, and it was so fun. And to get to experience that, like a hardware launch again as like a fan, and to have this wonderful community around us, to be excited together, and like to experience the highs and the lows, as they say, the emotional highs and lows, and to even like be able to have fun like speculating about what's gonna happen. Like, oh, what a treat! We haven't gotten a chance to do this in so long. I've missed it. It's so much fun. This is what you guys have been doing without us all these years, huh? All right, I can get down with this. But yes, we're going to be doing this probably all week long. Let us know in the comments what you think. Maybe you guys are closing your ears to all of the leaks and rumors, and you want to be surprised, which is good for you guys as well. But if you are following along, let us know. What do you think? Are you worried? Are you excited? What is your emotional state? Tell us everything. We want to know. Okay, we're going to wrap it up and we'll see you guys later.
Bye.